They say the old man once wiped out a battalion with nothing but a spoon and a toothache. When the Galactic Mercenaries yanked him off his stool at the noodle cart, the only thing he reached for was his half-eaten dumpling. I paid for that, he mumbled, right before they tasered him through the ribs. A kid watching from the alley asked her mom, "Why are they arresting a janitor?" The mercs laughed. The old man drooled a little. And the galaxy tuned in. 3 days later, he stood in the center of the Obsidian Arena, blinking at the flashing lights like a confused grandfather who'd wandered onto a rave stage. A booming announcer voice echoed through the stadium's upper rings. From the wastelands of dirt and dementia, presenting the Relic. Cameras hovered around him like flies on roadkill. He wore a ragged duster, a dusty pair of boots, and a worn-out eye patch that looked like it was holding his head together with hope and expired glue. Blade Vulture, the reigning arena champion and 7-foot-tall walking metal nightmare, landed in front of him with a crash that cracked the ground. His armor glistened. His vibro-axes hummed. He struck a pose. "Did you wander in here looking for the restroom, Grandpa?" The crowd laughed. One camera zoomed in as the old man scratched his butt absently, then yawned. "Are you my nurse?" he asked, squinting up at the cyborg. Blade Vulture cracked his knuckles and charged. People expected a massacre. They'd come to see blood. They didn't expect the old man to move like a ghost dipped in lightning. He ducked the first swing. The second. He kicked Blade's knee backward with a pop. Grabbed a shattered drone wing off the ground, spun, and jammed it into the champion's joint. Blade shrieked, fell, got up, and lunged again. The old man sighed. And then he took off the patch. A hush fell over the crowd. For a moment, even the background arena music, blasting synth opera from Sector 12, faltered into silence. Where his right eye should have been was a crimson orb, pulsing, spinning, ancient and wrong. All around the arena, drones short-circuited and exploded mid-air. The tech commentator panicked and cut the stream to black, only for Slay TV to override the blackout seconds later, recognizing a ratings spike unlike anything since the Great Sly Core Rebellion of '89. The old man blinked once. Blade Vulture exploded. There was no body. Just armor fragments and a smear of melted synth flesh. The crowd didn't cheer. They stared, slack-jawed, wondering if the network had just killed off their champion with a misplaced prop. Meanwhile, the old man was already walking toward the exit gates, muttering about soup. "Security breach!" screamed the arena AI. "Unregistered tech signature detected." Turrets sprang from the walls and fired stun rays. He raised a finger, wagged it disapprovingly, and the turrets blew themselves apart like guilty schoolchildren. In the executive suite high above the arena, Slay TV's programming director was mid-coffee sip when her assistant sprinted in. "Ma'am," he panted, "you're not gonna believe who we just aired." The director glanced at the live screen. She saw the slow-motion replay, the old man removing the patch, the eye activating, the champion disintegrating. She dropped her coffee. "That's impossible," she whispered. "He died. We buried him." "No," the assistant said, hands shaking. "He buried us." Backstage, the arena handlers avoided eye contact as the old man sat on a bench, quietly chewing what appeared to be someone's protein bar. "You need to stay in holding," one handler said, voice cracking. "We have more entertainment scheduled." "Good," he replied, licking his fingers. "I haven't had a decent fight since Neptune." He looked down at the empty wrapper. "Also, this tastes like sand and betrayal. Tell your chef I want noodles next time." The handler bolted. Across the galaxy, fans were already stitching memes of the "Grandpa Goes God Mode" moment. Conspiracy channels lit up. Some claimed he was a glitch in the simulation. Others were convinced the eye was some kind of ancient alien relic. A few veterans who watched in silence slowly reached for their comms and sent encrypted pings into deep black channels. Call signs not spoken aloud in 2 decades began lighting up like ghosts waking from their slumber. Meanwhile, the old man sat alone in his cell, humming a lullaby to no one in particular. A blinking red camera tracked him from the corner of the room. He stared at it, gave a little smile, and flicked his middle finger. The camera shorted out. On the moon of Carthus, a retired general got the signal. He stared at the calm display, then opened a drawer he hadn't touched in 15 years. Inside was a sealed envelope, a broken dog tag, and a single word etched into a brass plate: Reaper. At the same time, inside the command halls of the Solar Tribunal, alarms flared. A council of 12 stared at the footage, aghast. One of them whispered, "He's alive! He came back! Killed the stream!" Another snapped, "We go black! No public trace!" "It's too late," said the youngest of them. "He is the trace." Back in the arena, the old man leaned back on his cot and stared at the ceiling. "They should have let me die in peace," he mumbled. His fingers traced the edge of the patch lying on the bench beside him. But no, they had to go and wake up the Reaper. And far above him, in orbit, a bounty drone activated. A glowing red message spread across every mercenary dashboard within 15 sectors. Wanted, CALLSIGN Reaper. Status, classified. Reward, 1 billion credits. Alive or dead? He closed his eyes. He knew this was just the beginning. The arena was a spark. The galaxy would burn next. And this time, he wasn't fighting a war. He was ending one. There were whispers in the dark corners of the galaxy, and for the first time in 20 years, they all spoke the same name. Reaper. Not as a myth, not as a bedtime story told by war-scarred veterans to scare upstart rookies, but as a man, alive, breathing, and apparently pissed off. The footage of the Obsidian Arena incident had already been mirrored and re-uploaded onto thousands of pirate streams before Slay TV's legal hounds could tear it down. It was viral. It was unstoppable. And most importantly, it was terrifying. On the 7th moon of Targos, an old smuggler choked on his drink when he saw the clip. "He's supposed to be dead," he muttered, rewinding the moment where the eye went red and the champion vaporized. "We all saw him die. In a forgotten prison colony deep within asteroid field M19, a former intelligence officer burst out laughing, then began weeping as he realized the man he once ordered assassinated was now back and had just gone live to the entire universe. Meanwhile, deep in the orbiting headquarters of Slay TV, the executive team was in full meltdown. The programming director, Mavika Dran, paced the floor like a caged animal, her boots echoing in the steel and glass panic room. "We need a new headline by morning. Spin it. Market it. Sell it. I don't care how." She spun toward her assistant, whose palms were sweating so much his data pad shorted slightly. "What's the engagement?" Up 48,000%. We crashed 5 view servers. 2 stream celebrities fake seizures just to stay relevant." "Good," Mavika hissed. "Then get the merchandise ready. Reaper t-shirts. Reaper-themed breakfast cereal. Reaper action figures. And for the love of credits, someone find out where he sleeps." Across the suite, a quiet man in a black suit with no visible ID badge spoke for the first time. "We don't merchandise Reaper," he said. "We eliminate him." Mavika scoffed. "Are you new here?" "I'm Tribunal." The room fell silent. Even the coffee machine stopped. Back in the bowels of the Obsidian Arena, the old man was being held in a reinforced cell surrounded by 4 layers of containment fields and armed guards with orders to shoot on eyeglow. He sat quietly, cross-legged on the floor, humming a tune that only 2 people in the galaxy would have recognized, both presumed dead. On a small screen in his cell, someone had left the broadcast feed running. He watched with amusement as 2 commentators speculated on whether he was a robot, a ghost, or possibly a malfunctioning clone. He didn't mind the rumors. Let the galaxy guess. The longer they stayed confused, the better. He needed time. The cell's comm system crackled. A voice, feminine, filtered through layers of nervous static. "You're not supposed to be alive." He looked up, wiping his nose with the back of his sleeve. "Tell that to the doctors who pronounced me dead. They really phoned that one in. I saw the reports. You were obliterated on Rexia. There was nothing left but blood vapor and a single boot. Never liked that boot anyway. It always squeaked. A pause. Why now? The voice asked. Why come back? He leaned forward slowly, eye narrowing. I didn't. They dragged me in. I was eating dumplings. There was silence on the other end, then a small exhale. The tribunal issued a system-wide bounty. 1 billion credits. Alive or dead? He chuckled, the sound dry and gravelly like a desert swallowing a scream. Figures. Same people who trained me. Same people who buried me. Now they want me gone again. He rose to his feet and stretched, joints popping in a way that sounded almost strategic. Do they think it's going to be easier this time? Outside the cell, a new visitor was arriving. She wasn't wearing military gear or executive silks, just a gray jacket, cargo boots, and the haunted look of someone who'd lost people they weren't supposed to lose. Her name was Arden Vel, and she used to run intelligence coordination for the Galactic Coalition before it fell apart like wet paper. She didn't ask for this assignment. She volunteered the second she saw the footage. She entered the observation room, peered through the shielded glass at the old man inside. So, she muttered to the guard. That's the Reaper. Allegedly, the guard replied. He keeps asking for noodles. She keyed into the comm. My name's Arden. I was told you might recognize me. He didn't turn. Arden Vel, Intel Commander. You used to hide transmission coordinates inside your choice of lipstick color. She blinked. How did you? You chew the left side of your cheek when you're lying. And you're chewing it right now. She hesitated. I'm not lying. He finally turned to face the glass. You came to kill me? No, she said quietly. I came to ask why you're still alive. He walked up to the glass, hands behind his back. Because the war never ended. It just got rerun with new actors. And now the old cast is being hunted. She felt a chill. In the Arena command hub, the showrunners prepared for what they were calling the rematch round. A test, they called it. An entertainment event. They were going to drop him into a simulation arena with 15 armed mercs and 1 cyber beast. He had no armor, no weapons, and allegedly no backup. The producers didn't expect him to survive, but they also made sure the broadcast delay was trimmed to 0. If he died, they'd milk it in real time. Reaper was already suiting up. Not in armor, but in something older, a black cloak with a stitched insignia that looked like a broken moon. Arden watched him and said, They're going to throw everything at you. He shrugged. Then they'd better not miss. She followed him to the prep chamber, knowing what she was doing was stupid. Suicidal, even. But she couldn't shake the feeling that if the galaxy had any hope of righting itself, it wasn't in governments or tech overlords. It was in this half-dead assassin with a chip on his shoulder, and an eye that could cook a tank. Before stepping through the threshold into the new arena, he turned back. Tell them, he said. The Reaper didn't come back for revenge. She tilted her head. Then what? He smirked. I came back for the punchline. Then he walked into the blinding light. The arena roared. The arena this time was different. Not the usual pit with cheering crowds and flashy lighting effects. This one was an old simulation zone, repurposed from an abandoned military VR field. It looked like a wasteland, cracked earth and rusted towers, scorched wreckage from forgotten wars scattered like tombstones. But the pain here would be real. Slay TV had upgraded the sim fields to include physical feedback, broken bones, bleeding wounds, even death if the host wished it. And the host, it seemed, very much did. Reaper walked calmly into the zone, hands in his coat pockets, his pace unhurried. On the screens above, a new logo flashed across every stream in bold letters. The Reaper Protocol, Level 2, Survival Round. Commentators whispered with reverence, no longer mocking, not after the last incident. No jokes. No gimmicks. Just wide eyes and bated breath. In Sector 9, school kids pretended to wear eye patches. In a dive bar on Andros 3, a bar fight stopped mid-punch just to catch the broadcast. Opposite him, the 15 mercenaries stood ready. Veterans, killers, bounty hunters, ex-Marines. Some grinned. Others flexed. One prayed. They were armed with everything from smart guns to plasma pikes, and behind them, the cyber beast loomed, a massive fusion of metal and muscle, its claws clicking against the concrete, its eyes scanning with artificial hatred. Reaper looked at them like someone examining produce. He sighed, cracked his neck, and muttered, "They always bring too many." The match began with a blare of sirens. The mercs fanned out instantly, trying to flank him. Reaper didn't run. He didn't even duck. He walked straight toward the closest tower, bullets slamming into the dirt around him. One clipped his coat. Another grazed his shoulder. He didn't flinch. A merc charged him with a vibroblade. Reaper ducked low, snatched a pipe off the ground, and jammed it through the man's knee. He screamed, collapsed, and Reaper took his weapon without missing a beat. He used it once, then threw it. The blade sailed across the field, embedding itself into another merc's helmet with a wet crunch. In under 30 seconds, 2 were down. The cyber beast roared and leapt forward, shattering the ground where Reaper had stood a second ago. The old man rolled, landed, and reached into the dirt. His fingers found a grenade someone had foolishly dropped. He lobbed it underhand without looking. It exploded in midair, shredding 2 more mercs in a fireball of irony. Somewhere, watching the broadcast, Soda Bite leaned back in her hacked viewer room and whistled. "Okay, Grandpa Death, you're kinda cool." She wasn't just a fan. She was busy tunneling into the arena's back-end systems, rewriting the feed to send him encoded messages. It wasn't easy. Slay TV's firewalls were built like space bunkers. But she was 16, caffeinated, and angry at the world. A lethal combination. She pinged Reaper a single word, left. He trusted the signal and moved without thinking. A sniper shot tore through where his head had just been. He glanced up, spotted the shooter, and kicked a chunk of metal upward. It hit a broken drone, which fell and knocked the sniper off his perch. Reaper grinned. "Haven't lost it." The cyber beast came at him again, faster this time, adapting. Its claws sliced through a tower like butter. Reaper climbed a nearby ledge, baiting it. The beast lunged. Reaper dropped behind it, kicked a control panel, and activated an old defense turret still wired into the SIM system. The turret opened fire, shredding the beast's flank until it screeched and staggered. Reaper ran up its back, jammed a broken blade into the access port, and electrocuted it until the beast crashed face first into a crater. 7 down? 8 to go. But they were getting smarter. Coordinated. He took a shot to the leg and grunted. Pain was real. Too real. Blood trickled down his boot. He limped behind cover, breathing hard. The mercs regrouped, setting up crossfire zones. They'd realized brute force wasn't enough. They wanted to box him in. Force him to bleed out. Reaper laughed. Cute! From the skies above, a cargo drone dropped something unexpected. A box marked Merchandise Arena Exclusive. It cracked open to reveal noodles. Actual noodles. Steaming. His favorite brand. Reaper stared for 2 full seconds. Then he reached in, picked up the carton, and slurped a bite. The mercs hesitated, baffled. Reaper looked up, mouth full. "You guys mind?" Lunch break. That's when the next surprise hit. A trio of gladiators entered the zone, unauthorized. One was a former Coalition shock trooper. Another, a cyborg with one arm replaced by a railgun. The third wore the broken remains of a Royal Guard's armor. They were supposed to be prisoners, retired fighters kept off the books. Instead, they joined the fray, charging the mercs from behind. The audience gasped. The ratings spiked again. Chaos reigned. Reaper didn't flinch. He downed the noodles, wiped his mouth, and joined the melee. What followed was a storm of bone snapping, blood spraying, system-breaking violence. The monks were overwhelmed, outmaneuvered, and outclassed. Reaper and the rogue gladiators fought like men with nothing left to lose. Each movement was a masterstroke of brutal precision. He took a rifle, used it as a club. He ripped a battery from a downed bot and overcharged it until it detonated midair, frying a shield wall. The last merc tried to surrender. Reaper didn't kill him. He handed him the empty noodle box. You hold on to that. It's history now. In the control room, Mavikadran's smile was long gone. He's building an army, she muttered. He's not just fighting. He's recruiting. The tribunal agent beside her didn't blink. Then we released the failsafe. No, she said, for the first time sounding afraid. He'll kill it. And then what? Back in the zone, Reaper stood among the wreckage, his coat torn, blood on his face, surrounded by men and women who had once been prisoners and were now something else entirely. Free. He looked at them, then at the sky, as if he knew every camera in the galaxy was watching. Your entertainment is over, he said, voice low, steady. Your lies. Your blood sports. Your control. Over. A silence hung in the air. Then cheers erupted across systems. Some cursed. Some cried. Some simply whispered his name. The Reaper had survived. But more than that, he had made others believe they could survive too. And belief, in the right hands, could burn down empires. The arena lay in ruins. What had once been a carefully controlled spectacle was now nothing more than smoking debris and shattered illusions. The simulation grid glitched uncontrollably, flickering between different war zones, struggling to maintain any semblance of order. The audience feed, meant to be edited and delayed for maximum engagement, had gone completely raw, uncut and live across the galaxy. The Reaper had broken their game. And now people everywhere were watching him rewrite the rules. In the shadows of the collapsing set, Reaper stood over the twisted wreck of the cyber beast. His coat was torn nearly to shreds, one sleeve missing entirely, and his leg bled freely through a makeshift tourniquet of wiring. His breath came slow and heavy. Around him, the rogue gladiators stood in a loose circle, watching for any movement from the enemy that hadn't already been turned into ash. These weren't just survivors anymore. They were believers. Men and women who had spent years forgotten, buried by the system, now standing beside the man who had shattered it. Ardenvel watched from the observation deck above, arms crossed, a pit growing in her stomach. Something had changed. Reaper wasn't just fighting to survive. He was leading. The broadcast feed hadn't been shut down. She'd tried herself twice. The command protocols had been locked from the inside. Someone was manipulating the system. Someone who wasn't part of Slay TV or the Tribunal. Someone else was in the wires. Sodabite grinned behind her cracked console screen, fingers a blur across the keys. She'd piggybacked the feed onto a private satellite and rerouted control through dozens of junk servers and broken nodes. The result: complete command over the arena broadcast stream. She was sending Reaper cues, controlling camera angles, cutting mics, scrambling facial recognition. A one-girl production crew on a warpath. It wasn't just about hacking anymore. It was about showing the galaxy something real. But not everyone was rooting for a revolution. In the Tribunal's deep core vault, a vault so classified it didn't even appear in internal maps, 3 members of the Solar Council stood over a sealed chamber. Inside it, a humanoid figure floated in a vertical tank filled with a viscous red fluid. Wires plugged into its spine. Its face was featureless, smooth as glass. The being's code name was Unit 13, a failsafe created in the event that Reaper ever resurfaced. It wasn't a clone. It wasn't a machine. It was something else entirely. He's lost containment, one council member muttered, staring at the data feeds. Reaper is destabilizing more than the arena. 3 independent colonies have just declared sovereignty from coalition-backed corporations. His influence is spreading. Then we use 13, said the woman beside him. We don't negotiate with relics. We erase them. The failsafe awakened without ceremony. One moment it floated. The next, its eyes lit with cold blue light, and the tank shattered outward. It landed silently on the vault floor, already scanning, already adapting. It didn't need orders. It had one directive, written in the oldest code of all: eliminate the original. Back in the arena remains, Reaper leaned against a crumbling support pillar, cleaning his blade with a strip of someone's former uniform. The others around him were checking supplies, talking low, tending to wounds. They had names now: Ash, Varek, Tombo, Lyra. People who had once been weapons, now remembering how to be human. He didn't say much, but when he did, they listened. Then one of them, Tombo, stepped forward with a datapad in hand. His expression was cautious, uncertain. "We have a traitor," he said quietly. The air shifted. The others tensed. Reaper didn't react at first. He took the datapad, flipped through the logs. Unauthorized transmission codes. Location tags. Pulse spikes. Someone had been signaling their location since before the last fight. Not overtly. Just enough to allow someone watching to track every movement. It was Ash. She didn't try to deny it. She looked Reaper in the eye and said, "They took my brother. Said they'd kill him unless I gave them updates. I didn't know who you were. I didn't care. But now," her voice cracked, "I don't know if I made a mistake." Reaper didn't yell. He just nodded and handed the datapad back to Tombo. Then he walked away, slowly, like he'd just decided something that hurt more than any wound. Arden saw the exchange from the deck. She knew that expression. She'd seen it once before, on the day Reaper had faked his death, right before he set a planet's atmosphere on fire to keep it from falling into enemy hands. That wasn't the look of betrayal. That was the look of a man about to make something right, no matter the cost. Night fell on the arena ruins. Drones buzzed overhead like angry insects. Broadcast lights stayed active, locked on, showing every scar and every fire in high definition. Arden made her way down to Reaper's position, stepping over scrap metal and blood-stained dust. She didn't speak until he acknowledged her with a nod. "You're going to kill her," she said. "No," Reaper replied. "I'm going to let her decide if she wants to live like she means it." He turned his eye to the sky. That red glow was dimmer now, less aggressive, more calculated. "They're coming," he said. "The real one this time." "Who?" "Me. But made in a lab, loyal to people who thought I was too unpredictable to keep alive. They built a cleaner version. No memories. No soul. Just instinct." Arden felt a chill settle in her spine. "How do you fight something designed to be better than you?" she asked. Reaper smirked. "You remind it what being worse was good for." The ground shook then, just slightly. But enough. Enough for everyone to feel it. Something had entered the atmosphere. Something massive. In orbit, feeds picked up a black dot descending toward the ruins. No registration code. No heat signature. Just a silent beacon. In the remaining control room, Sodabyte traced the signal. It had no source. No return path. Like a ghost in the code. She tried to block it, reroute it, trace it. It laughed at her, in machine code. She stopped typing and simply whispered, "He's not alone." At dawn, they stood ready. Reaper at the front, wounded but unbent, the others arrayed behind him. Ash was there too, silent, still unsure what she was fighting for but unwilling to run. The broadcast was still live. Billions were watching. And as the shadow of Unit 13 descended like the harbinger of forgotten sins, Reaper rolled his shoulders once, cracked his knuckles, and said only one thing. "Let's end the commercial break." The sky above the ruined arena turned black, not with clouds but with something denser, colder, more deliberate. The sun itself seemed to flinch behind the silhouette of Unit 13's dropship. It didn't roar. It didn't announce itself with sirens or lights. It simply hovered in silence, lowering its cargo like a priest delivering the last rites. When Unit 13 touched down, the earth cracked. Not from weight but from pressure, its presence alone seemed to compress reality. Reaper didn't move at first. He just watched it step forward calmly, slowly, like it had all the time in the universe. Its face, smooth and expressionless, was not a mask. It was what it was. No eyes, no mouth, just a curved plate that shimmered with refracted light. Its body was lean, built for efficiency, draped in armor that adapted with every step. Every molecule of it was engineered to be better than him. Faster. Smarter. Cleaner. But it wasn't him. It didn't remember pain. It didn't remember failure. And it didn't understand why those things mattered. Around Reaper, the others tensed. Varric clicked his weapon into standby. Tombo whispered a prayer to gods he didn't believe in. Lyra flexed the synthetic tendons in her arms, calculating distances. Ash didn't speak. Her betrayal still hung in the air like smoke, but she stood among them nonetheless. No one dared speak above a breath. The broadcast was still live. The entire galaxy was watching what might be the end of a man they once thought was legend, now undeniably real. Then Unit 13 spoke. Not with a voice, but with a soundless signal, a frequency that bypassed ears and entered thought. CALLSIGN Reaper. You are obsolete. Your function has ended. Submit termination. Reaper rolled his neck. The sound of vertebrae cracking echoed louder than the message. He stepped forward alone, hands at his sides. Function's just another word for leash. I cut mine. He didn't wait for a response. He lunged first. The battle that followed was not like the others. It didn't feel like a fight. It felt like a reckoning. Reaper moved with brutal grace, each strike carrying decades of muscle memory, rage, and precision. Unit 13 countered every blow with inhuman efficiency. It mirrored him, not in style, but in rhythm. He struck high, it blocked low. He feinted left, it anticipated right. Every time he tried something unpredictable, it adapted. The eye glowed red, flaring with each attack. And still, it wasn't enough. The others tried to help. Lyra fired plasma shots meant to distract, Tombo launched a drone from the sidelines, and Ash tossed Reaper a makeshift explosive. He caught it mid-sprint, slammed it into the ground near Unit 13's feet, and vaulted back as the blast erupted. Smoke engulfed the field. The crowd watching across the galaxy leaned forward, silent. When it cleared, Unit 13 still stood. Its chest plate was scorched, but intact. It raised a hand and unleashed a sonic wave that dropped Lyra and Tombo instantly. Arden, watching from the tower, felt a scream build in her throat. Sodabite, still wired into the system, tried to activate backup protocols, override the arena shields, anything, but the stream was no longer hers. It had been hijacked again. Only one message now scrolled across every viewer screen, over and over in every language. This is your future. Comply. Reaper wasn't breathing as hard anymore. He bled from his side, his leg, his mouth, but his movements remained sharp. If anything, he moved cleaner now. He'd stopped trying to win the fight like a soldier. He started fighting like a ghost. He used the terrain, the wreckage, the distractions. He fought dirty. Threw sand. Slammed doors. He bit when he had to. Unit 13 couldn't process it. It recognized tactics, not instinct. Then Reaper saw his opening. Ash, barely conscious, dragged herself to the edge of the field. She reached into her coat and tossed something across the ground. A weapon. Not one of the arena's standard-issue toys. It was old, worn, and humming with unstable charge. A relic from before the war. Reaper caught it, recognized it immediately. The phase cleaver. He had buried it himself 2 decades ago. He charged. Unit 13 calculated the trajectory, raised its arm to counter, already adapting. Reaper activated the blade mid-swing. The explosion wasn't loud. It was just final. A clean cut across synthetic bone and steel. The cleaver tore through Unit 13's arm, then through its chest. Sparks erupted. Something inside it, something vital, shut down. It staggered. Reaper didn't stop. He struck again, carving pieces off the perfect replacement they'd sent to kill him. And finally, when only its torso remained, he stepped back, panting, eyes wild. Unit 13 tilted its head, glitching. Its voice returned, flickering in and out. This is not optimal. Reaper looked down at it. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, with a low growl, he knelt, picked up his eye patch, and slid it back over the glowing red socket. Neither was I. He turned away as the body sparked and collapsed into silence. The crowd roared across star systems. Screens shattered from people throwing chairs in joy. Entire rebel factions declared new holidays. Kids cried. Veterans saluted. And somewhere, someone stopped being afraid. Back in the arena, Reaper collapsed to one knee. Ash was already at his side, holding him up. Arden reached him moments later. He looked at both of them, then at the rest of the survivors. One by one, they gathered around. It's not over, he said. We know, Arden replied. But now they're afraid. He nodded. That's a good start. Sodabide's voice came through the comms. I've got full control again. Do you want me to cut the feed? Reaper paused, then looked up at the sky. No. Let them watch. And so they did. The final image the galaxy saw was Reaper standing among the survivors, the arena burning behind them, the red eye dim under the patch but not gone. It was a message. Not of victory, but of warning. Later, no one could find him. The tribunal sent ships. Slay TV offered contracts. The rebellion offered leadership. He refused them all. He was gone. Until, in a small system where the stars never quite aligned, a noodle stand opened. No sign. No name. Just a man with an eye patch and a limp who served soup with a smirk. And when a new mercenary squad rolled into town looking to start trouble, the locals just smiled and said one thing. You'd better be polite. Because the cook? He used to be death.